Hey everybody, so Metal Jesus put out a video a few weeks back and I was going to record this video, but then we started the moving process and now we're in this new house and this is the first video I'm recording, so may take a video or two to get all the sound right exactly how we want it, but let's just dive into this without any further ado. So Metal Jesus put out a community video titled Games People Would Be Surprised You Haven't Played, I believe was the name of it. And it was one of his community videos, and I always try to do like my own video response. Like I said, I'm an old YouTube head, but back in the day you could do video responses. I try to keep that tradition going when any of the YouTubers that I like put out videos I think would make good responses, and this is one of them. So I just quickly compiled a list of 5 or so games that have been really popular in my 25 years of gaming that I haven't got around to. So without further ado, let's just get it started with Skyrim. This is probably the biggest game that I have not really ever played, but I always explain it like this. I was Fallout, my brother was Elder Scrolls Skyrim, and I don't know why, that's just something me and my brother did. I would play one version of a game, he'd play another version of the game, dating all the way back to like Pokemon. And this is no exception. I was really big into Fallout New Vegas. My brother was really big into Skyrim. So yes, Skyrim was insanely popular. I mean, who could forget? I was in high school when Skyrim dropped with that 11-11-11 release date. So iconic at this point. A few years prior, I had played Oblivion, and I did like it, don't get me wrong. I didn't sink a massive amount of time into it, but I liked what I played. The reason I didn't play more Oblivion or even really start Skyrim was, as I said, when the 360 came out, dude, it was loaded. I mentioned Fallout, but let's just take a second to reflect on the 360. Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5, the BioShock trilogy, Borderlands, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I mean, the 360 was stacked. In hindsight, looking back in 2011, Skyrim was arguably the best game released that year. So I don't know exactly what I was playing at the time. Looking back at the release date in 2011, I was playing a good bit of Catherine, which I would say is a truly unique experience. So I don't regret putting more time into Fallout New Vegas or Catherine, or like I've said, the BioShock games or any of the other 360 games I've played. I don't regret not playing Skyrim, but I should definitely get around to it at some point. It's been almost 15 years. Next in a similar vein is another popular entry. I would argue, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but maybe the most popular game of the 2020s. And that's Elden Ring. And it's very simple here. I'm not gonna overly complicate things. Growing up, I had an opinion on NES and Super Nintendo games. I had an uncle who swore by 8-bit and 16-bit games, and I went back and tried to play a good bit of them. Like Mega Man, Ghosts and Goblins, Contra. And at the end of the day, I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the franchises. They're not my favorite to go back and play. Games that are artificially difficult were just never my vibe. Like, I've said it before, I don't really have any shame in admitting this. I love stuff like Pokemon and Kirby. So, are you really that surprised that I haven't played Elden Ring? And, I mean, I can accept that they have been cultural milestones in the gaming industry. That's fine. I have no problem admitting that. And in fact, I do want to play Elden Ring. And next time I get Game Pass, as long as it's still on there, I don't know if it is, but or if there's a good sale, I'll pick up Elden Ring. But I remember when, like, I haven't played any of the Dark Souls either. I just remember people being like, yeah, Dark Souls are like modern day NES games, and me being like, well, why the heck would I want to play that? If I wanted torture, I could just load Mega Man. So no, they never had any appeal to me ever. When people are like, no, you die and you just yada yada, it's like, no, that is not fun to me. Like, gaming should be fun, and there are some people where the fun of video games is beating difficult video games, and if that's your thing, I salute you, I support you. It's just not my thing. My thing is exploring worlds, collectathons, platformers, playing multiplayer games with my wife. To me, that is the pinnacle of video games. But I played Star Wars, Jedi Fallen Order, whatever the first one is. I think Last Survivor's the second one, maybe. It's been a few years since I played it now, but I loved that game. I loved it, but I didn't play it when it came out. I finally took the plunge when it was on Game Pass, but people were like, oh, it's Dark Souls, but with Star Wars. I was like, that kind of ruins it for me. But I played it, and Star Wars Jedi was like Zelda meets Ratchet and Clank, and I thought it was phenomenal. So many platforming parts. The combat wasn't brutal. The upgrades were amazing. The upgrades made me think like Ratchet and Clank. It was awesome, and I was like, well, maybe I've been looking at Souls games wrong. I mean, if Star Wars is a Souls game, this was awesome. So I do plan on getting around to Elden Ring more than Dark Souls. I don't really have any interest in the Souls games, but Elden Ring looks cool, and they got the new one coming out on Switch 2. May get around to that one. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, haven't played Elden Ring, haven't played the Souls games. Now, I said I'm a big 3D platformer fan. If you've watched my channel, then you know that. There's a ridiculous amount of coverages for the Super Mario games, or A Hat in Time, did a Let's Play of Yooka-Laylee. Plenty of love for 3D platformers. So you guys might be surprised to learn that I've never played Conker's Bad Fur Day. Since 3D platformers are kind of my thing, I knew I had to include one here. A few years ago, I could have included Banjo-Kazooie, and that one probably would have been more surprising, but again, Banjo-Kazooie 1 and 2 were on Game Pass during the pandemic. I got all the achievements for Banjo-Kazooie. Started Banjo-Tooie, didn't beat it. I've since canceled my Game Pass. Tooie was not gripping me the same way Kazooie was, but they're both really good. I enjoyed my time with both of them. And now, my wife has actually bought me Conker on N64, so I do own it. The timing just hasn't felt right to play it yet. It doesn't call me in the same way that Banjo-Kazooie and DK64 did, and my wife and kids watch me play a lot. A majority of the time, we're playing as a family, whether they're watching me play or we're playing a multiplayer game. So I just don't think Conker's Bad Fur Day is a game that my 3-year-old and wife would enjoy watching me play. So I will get around to it. It's just not super high on my list. Next up, let's do some 2D side-scrolling icons. We'll start with, maybe this would surprise a lot of people, knowing my love for Mario and platformers, is Super Mario Bros. 3, heralded as maybe one of the best NES games of all time, and I haven't played it. As well as Hollow Knight. I'm more of a Metroidvania fan than a 2D side-scrolling platformer fan, and Hollow Knight is arguably the pinnacle of modern-day Metroidvanias. One of my gaming goals this decade was to explore more 2D platformers. I still haven't tackled the behemoth of Celeste, but I did play some of the Donkey Kong Country games on the Super Nintendo and played Shovel Knight, that game was a revelation for me. And if you look at my older roots, I loved Kirby 64 as a kid, but it was arguably the only side-scrolling game that I liked maybe my whole life. The N64 was my first home console. I'm a child of the 3D space. I don't love 2D platformers the same way that I love the 3D ones. Still, I've started to enjoy some, and I think Mario Bros. 3 and Hollow Knight would climb up my ranks if I actually sat down and played them. The day just hasn't arrived yet. Before we get to the last game today, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It means a lot to us. The last game I'm going to talk about today is Chrono Trigger. My longtime viewers will know my plan is for Chrono Trigger to be the last retro game I buy, finalizing my collection. And there's still a few more games I want to buy before then. My uncle, who got us in a lot into gaming, especially some of the older stuff, always said Chrono Trigger was better than Ocarina of Time. Yes, this was around the year 2000, and I still remember it 25 years later. As a result, I've always had this idea of buying Chrono Trigger, riding off into the sunset, and playing through my retro collection. It's a moment I dream of, but there's still so much more to do with my game collection before that day comes. I have to complete the N64 and the GameCube collection, namely. So, Chrono Trigger, you'll just have to wait a little longer, but this game definitely holds some, I don't know, some really high place. Like I've said, I've romanticized the idea because of how much Chrono Trigger was praised growing up, how much I heard about Chrono Trigger growing up, that it's my my life's work, my life's goal to get Chrono Trigger and see what all the fuss is about. But that day probably won't come for a little while. I still have a huge way to go on the GameCube collection. I'm less than a little less than half of the way on the N64. So Chrono Trigger, you will be mine one day, but that day is not today. So yeah, I thought this would be just a fun little video for my audience to kind of chime in with games that they're surprised they haven't played, games they thought they would get around to and just haven't yet. Feel free to sound off. Let me know down below what really monumental video games you haven't tackled. And there's plenty more I could get into. When we did our top 5 PS2 video, which check that out if you haven't, it dawned on me I haven't played the Metal Gear Solid games or the God of War games, and some people would consider those some of the best games ever made. So there's just so many video games, and everybody has their own opinion and own taste, and there's several different reasons why you may not have played a game before. So I'd love to hear from you guys down below. Let me know what games have eluded you this whole time, and I'll see you in the next one.